Welcome to the fourth and final week of our series, Open-Handed. We've taken the last few weeks to dive into the amazing gifts that God wants to offer us, and beyond that, how we can actually go about receiving them. The posture of receiving is to have our hands open, outstretched toward God, in order to receive all that He has to give us. It's not as easy as it looks. It's simple, but it's rarely easy. And that's why we're taking this series to take apart this. So far, we've covered the topics of receiving light, becoming empty, and receiving rest. Now, if you've missed any of those weeks or want to watch them again, you can always check it out online. Just start out by visiting stalphonsus.net. Today, as we wrap up this series, we're talking about receiving the future. If you remember all the way back to January of this year, and it does feel like forever ago, doesn't it? Everyone was particularly excited about this year, the start of a new decade. The year ahead seemed to be filled with fresh potential and promise. Everyone spoke about their 2020 vision, their idea of what sort of life-changing year this was going to be. It's clear that nobody could have seen the future. I think at the end of this year, we'll be looking back with 2020 hindsight and seeing all the ways that God worked during this totally unexpected year. In today's gospel, we heard the parable of the sower. We hear how a great number of the seeds end up essentially being a waste. The sower put out all the time and effort into sowing, and then some of them fell by the wayside, some get choked up by thorns, and some dry up and wither in the heat. And speaking of heat, right? Pretty hot out there. Now, this sower isn't stupid. He does this for a living. He knows that not all of the seeds he sows are going to yield much of anything. And yet he still sows. Why? Because he's not going to let the fear of what could go wrong in the future keep him from taking action in the present. I'm going to say that again. We cannot let our fear of what could go wrong in the future keep us from taking action in the present. Too many people, friends, too many people are sitting on the sidelines of their marriage because they're afraid to speak out about the issues that they're seeing, right? Well, what if I make matters worse, or what if I lose them? Too many people don't make an effort in their career because it's going to require more of them than they're comfortable with right now. Like, what if I actually can't handle anymore? Far too many people go through the motions in their faith because they know that to grow spiritually is going to take hard work and some tough choices. And what if I mess up? And what if God rejects me? It may be easier and more comfortable and far less scary to stay in place. But it sure as heck does not give us opportunity. If the sower from the parable had just said, you know what, most of these seeds are probably just going to get eaten by birds, a lot of effort when the weather might not even cooperate, and after all of this, I still have to stay on top of all of the weeds, so I just won't bother. If the sower had said that, well, guess what? We would have never experienced the ending that we hear. Some seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. The seeds that did fall on good ground ended up yielding enough to make up for the seeds that had been lost. The effort, the time, all of it ended up being worth it. Friends, the same is true for you and me. Our future is not lost because of what we're currently experiencing. And that's why we cannot let our fear of what could go wrong in the future keep us from taking action in the present. Because your current actions shape your future. All we have is the present. And we can use the present to position ourselves to receive the future that God has in store for us. Furthermore, it is worth noting that God trusts that you can get there. He's offering you grace and mercy because he believes in you. In our first reading from Isaiah today, we hear God say this: "So shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish what I purpose and succeed in the thing for which I sent it." Friends, God is not thrown off by anything. It's not like this pandemic happened and then God threw his hands up in the air in frustration and said, "Oh no, there go all my plans. What am I going to do now?" Not at all. That is not our God. He's got this and all things under control. And he wants us to move with him in his timing, in his vision, in his rhythm, to make that better future a reality. And my brothers and my sisters, that better future does exist. It does. I don't want to get all dark and dreary here, but every single one of us goes through some dark times in our lives. We all hit a time where we wonder if anything will ever get better, or if our best days are behind us. But again, our mind tends to trick us to go there because all we can see is what's happening right now. We don't know the exact outcome of how everything is going to turn out. So when our mind tries to envision it, it can only compare it with our current circumstances and maybe some things from the past. So our vision of the future tends to be hazy and uncertain, and it fills us with doubt and with fear. But there is a better way. Brothers and sisters, I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. Your future is not even comparable to what you're going through right now. Your future is so much glorious, so much more glorious than you can even picture. So when we receive God's graces and his gifts, we can trust that he can see and that he is giving us now what we will need then. You see, we receive the future by receiving the present, by leaning into the now, seeing how God is moving and following him in those movements. We receive the present when we open up our hands to God and trust that he is giving us everything that we need, all that we need to walk with confidence into that ever so glorious future that he has in store for us.